The knock at my door came at exactly 7 p.m. Even before I opened it, I knew who it was. Marcus had always been obsessively punctual, a trait that served him well in maintaining his image as the responsible brother. "James," he said, stepping into my modest one-bedroom apartment without waiting for an invitation. His designer suit looked comically out of place among my second-hand furniture. "Still living like a college student, I see." I watched him survey my home with barely concealed disdain, remembering the last time he visited. 5 years ago, when he stopped by to gloat about his newest vacation property, the one he bought with my money. "My name is James Chen, and 15 years ago, my brother Marcus stole my inheritance through an elaborate scheme of forged documents and carefully orchestrated lies. Our father's estate, worth over $40 million, should have been split equally between us. Instead, Marcus walked away with everything, leaving me with nothing but questions and a carefully crafted narrative about how I'd been rightfully cut out of the will." "Can I get you something to drink?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Water? Coffee?" Marcus waved his hand dismissively. "No time for pleasantries, James. I'm here to discuss an opportunity, a chance for you to improve your situation." He gestured vaguely at my surroundings. I bit back a smile. If he only knew. The truth was, my situation wasn't what it appeared to be. For the past 15 years, I'd been carefully building a case against my brother, piecing together evidence of his deception while he grew increasingly careless with his success. "What kind of opportunity?" I asked, settling into my worn armchair. Marcus pulled out a glossy presentation folder. "I'm expanding the family business. New markets, new ventures. It's going to be huge." He paused, studying me. "I know things haven't been easy for you since Dad's passing, but this could be your chance to be part of something bigger." I thought about the real family business, the one our father had built from nothing, the one Marcus had twisted into his personal ATM after gaining control through forged documents and bribed witnesses. The same business that had funded his mansions, his cars, his perfect life while I supposedly struggled to make ends meet. "Why me?" I asked, genuinely curious. "You've made it clear over the years that you don't think much of my business acumen." He shifted slightly, and I caught the first glimpse of desperation behind his practiced smile. "Family is family. Besides, you've managed to stay solvent despite your circumstances. That shows some financial sense." What Marcus didn't know was that my circumstances were entirely by design. After discovering his deception, I could have confronted him immediately. Instead, I chose to play the long game. I lived modestly, worked a steady but unremarkable job, and let him believe he'd won completely. Meanwhile, I've been gathering evidence. Bank records showing suspicious transfers around the time of our father's death. Testimony from the lawyer who'd helped Marcus forge the new will. Digital forensics proving the timestamps on key documents had been altered. But most importantly, I discovered something Marcus himself didn't know. A hidden clause in our father's real will. One that would not only expose his fraud but destroy the carefully constructed empire he'd built on stolen money. "How much are you looking for?" I asked, leaking through his presentation. $10 million, he said casually, as if discussing pocket change. "Initial investment round. The returns will be spectacular." I nodded slowly, noting how his eyes kept darting around my apartment, calculating my apparent worth against his needs. "That's a lot of money for someone in my position." "I can help with financing," he said quickly, too quickly. "Set up a payment plan, use your apartment as collateral." And there it was. The real reason for his sudden interest in family reconciliation. Marcus was in trouble, serious trouble, and he was desperate enough to approach the brother he'd robbed and ridiculed. What he didn't know was that I'd been tracking his business dealings for years. I knew about the failed investments, the mounting debts, the increasingly risky ventures. His empire, built on my stolen inheritance, was crumbling. "I'll need time to think about it," I said carefully. "Review the numbers." Of course, he stood up, straightening his jacket. "Just don't take too long. This opportunity won't last forever." He paused at the door, that familiar smirk playing at his lips. "And James, try not to let your current situation cloud your judgment. This could be your only chance to be part of something successful." After he left, I sat in silence for a long moment, his presentation folder open on my lap. 15 years of waiting, of carefully maintaining this facade while building my case. And now, finally, Marcus had given me exactly what I needed, proof that he was desperate enough to make mistakes. I pulled out my phone and dialed the familiar number. Sarah, he came, just like you predicted. Sarah Zhang had been our father's personal lawyer before Marcus forced her out. She'd spent years helping me gather evidence, waiting for the right moment to expose the truth. Did he mention the Dubai deal? She asked. Not directly, but he's looking for $10 million in investment money. She let out a low whistle. He's worse off than we thought. The timing might be perfect. I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out a heavy safe box, not the obvious one Marcus had undoubtedly noticed, but a hidden one built into the wall. Inside was 15 years' worth of evidence. Original documents, bank records, witness statements, and most importantly, our father's real will. How long will it take to file the papers? I asked, spreading the documents across my bed. Given what we have, we could move tomorrow. But James, she paused. Are you sure you want to do it this way? We could just expose him now, take him to court. I thought about all the family dinners I'd endured, watching Marcus play the role of successful son while painting me as the family failure. All the snide comments, the mock concern, the carefully crafted lies. No, I said firmly. He needs to understand exactly what he's losing. And for that, we need him to think he's winning first. Over the next few days, I played my role perfectly. I called Marcus with questions about his proposal, making sure to sound both eager and slightly desperate. I let him walk me through projected returns, watching him spin increasingly elaborate tales about the opportunity he was generously offering. What he didn't know was that every conversation was being recorded, every promise documented. The web of lies he'd spent 15 years weaving was about to become his prison. A week after his visit, I invited him back to my apartment. This time, I had a surprise waiting. I've been doing some calculations, I said, pulling out a battered notebook. About the investment. Marcus leaned forward, that predatory gleam in his eyes. And? I think I can do it, but I'll need to liquidate everything. My savings, my retirement fund. I let my voice trail off uncertainly. It's worth it, he said quickly. Trust me, James. 6 months from now, you'll be thanking me. I nodded slowly. There's just one thing I need you to clarify first. Of course, anything. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a thick file. Could you explain these documents, particularly the ones showing how you forged Dad's will 15 years ago? The color drained from his face. For the first time in 15 years, I saw real fear in my brother's eyes. The game was about to change, and Marcus had no idea he'd already lost. Marcus stared at the file, his practiced composure cracking. What is this? Evidence, I said simply, spreading the documents across my coffee table. Bank transfers to the lawyer who helped you forge the will. Witness statements. Digital forensics proving document timestamps were altered. I paused, watching his face. Would you like to see the security camera footage of you entering Dad's office the night the will mysteriously changed? He tried to laugh, but it came out strangled. This is ridiculous. You're obviously fabricating. Like you fabricated Dad's signature. I pulled out a specific document. The FBI's forensics lab was quite interested in that, by the way. Apparently, forgery at this scale is a federal crime. Marcus stood abruptly, straightening his tie. You're bluffing. If you had real evidence, you would have used it years ago. Would I? I leaned back, feeling 15 years of tension begin to unwind. Tell me, brother, why do you think I've been living like this, in this apartment, working a mundane job, letting you think you'd won completely? Understanding began to dawn in his eyes. You've been waiting, building a case, gathering evidence, watching you get more and more careless with your success. I gestured to his investment proposal, and now, watching you get desperate enough to make mistakes. He sank back into his chair, the magnitude of his situation finally hitting him. The Dubai deal, he muttered, is collapsing, I finished, just like your other recent ventures. That's why you need the $10 million so urgently. But here's what you don't know, Marcus. There's a clause in Dad's real will, one you missed when you were busy forging documents. I pulled out another file, this one containing our father's original will. In case of any dispute or fraud regarding the inheritance, all assets revert to a trust controlled by his lawyers. Everything you've built for the past 15 years, it's all based on stolen money. And now it's all going to disappear. Marcus lunged for the documents, but I was faster. Careful, I warned. Copies are already with the FBI, the SEC, and 3 separate law firms. You can't make this disappear. What do you want? He demanded, his voice hoarse. Money? Fine. Name your price. I laughed, the sound echoing in my small apartment. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. This is about truth. About justice. About showing everyone exactly who you really are. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Everything was in motion. Right now, I continued. Federal agents are seizing your business records. Your accounts are being frozen. That empire you built on stolen money? It's over. Marcus's face contorted with rage. You're my brother. How could you do this to family? Family? I stood up, finally letting 15 years of anger surface. You destroyed our family the moment you decided to steal my inheritance. You took everything. The money, the business, even our parents' trust, and you spent years mocking me for being poor. I walked to my bedroom and returned with a small box. But here's what you never understood, Marcus. Success isn't about money. It's about integrity, about building something real. Opening the box, I pulled out photos, surveillance shots, financial records, witness statements. While you were busy playing the successful son, I was building something too. A case that will not only expose your fraud, but show everyone exactly how you achieved your supposed success. His eyes darted to the door, calculating escape routes. The business, everything I've built, was built on lies, I finished. And now the truth is coming out. Check your phone. As if on cue, his phone began buzzing with notifications. News alerts about federal investigations into his companies. Messages from panicked partners and investors. His perfectly constructed world was unraveling in real time. You don't have to do this, he said, desperation creeping into his voice. We can work something out. Split everything 50-50, just like it should have been. It's too late for that, I replied calmly. The FBI has questions about certain international transactions. The SEC is particularly interested in your recent investment schemes. And Dad's original lawyers, they're ready to execute that trust clause I mentioned. Marcus slumped in his chair, defeated. Why now? After all these years? Because you finally did the one thing I was waiting for. You got desperate enough to come to me, to try to use me one more time. I gestured to his investment proposal. You thought you were setting me up for one final con, but you were really walking into a trap 15 years in the making. A sharp knock at the door made him jump. Sarah entered, followed by 2 federal agents. Marcus Chen. One agent stepped forward. We have some questions about certain financial transactions. As they led my brother away, Sarah handed me a thick envelope. The trust documents are ready. Once the fraud is officially proven, everything reverts to your control. I watched through my window as Marcus was escorted to a waiting car, his designer suit wrinkled, his carefully maintained image shattered. Was it worth the wait? Sarah asked softly. I thought about the past 15 years, the careful planning, the patient gathering of evidence, the calculated maintenance of my struggling facade. This was never about the money, I said. It was about truth, about showing that you can't build lasting success on lies and betrayal. In the weeks that followed, Marcus's empire crumbled completely. The evidence was irrefutable, the charges numerous. The brother who had spent years mocking my modest lifestyle found himself facing serious federal charges. Our parents, finally confronted with irrefutable proof of their favorite son's deception, were devastated. Years of believing his lies, of accepting his narrative about me, had left them unable to process the truth. I don't understand, our mother said when I finally showed her all the evidence. Why did you wait so long to tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked gently. Or would you have believed Marcus's explanations, his excuses, his carefully crafted lies? She had no answer for that. The family business, once restored to legitimate management under the trust, began to thrive again. But I didn't take control immediately. Instead, I focused on rebuilding something more important, the truth about our family's legacy. 1 year after Marcus's arrest, I finally moved out of my modest apartment, not into a mansion or a luxury penthouse, but into a comfortable home that represented honest success. The last time I saw Marcus was at his sentencing hearing. As they led him away, he turned to me one final time. You could have had everything 15 years ago, he said. Why wait? Why live like that for so long? I looked at my brother, not the polished, successful image he maintained, but the truth of who he really was. Because some things are worth more than money, I replied. Like knowing that when people look at what I've built, they'll see something real, something earned through patience and integrity, not stolen through lies and betrayal. As I walked out of the courthouse, reporters shouted questions about the scandal, about the family drama, about the money, but none of them understood what this had really been about. This wasn't a story about inheritance or revenge. It was about the price of truth, the power of patience, and the understanding that real success isn't measured in dollars or properties or power. It's measured in the integrity of how you build it. In my office now, I keep a small photo from 15 years ago. Marcus and me at our father's last birthday, his arm around my shoulder, both of us smiling for the camera. It's a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that patience is sometimes the strongest weapon, and that the truth, no matter how long buried, eventually finds its way to the surface. Some people might say 15 years was too long to wait for justice, but as I sit in my new office, running the business the way our father intended, I know it was worth every minute. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't just exposing lies. It's proving that truth and integrity, no matter how long they take, will always win in the end. And that's something no amount of stolen money can buy.